Look at the weather.
It's beautiful here.
Non-stop rain.
Oh, man, it is a blazer out there.
It's cold and it's shivery.
It is cold.
Really coming down here.
I really enjoy your weather reports.
From the All Indiana Podcast Network, we're talking weather in a whole new way. From historical events to what's coming up, plus weather news, science, safety, fun facts, and more.
I like where this is going.
This is Weather Weekly. Weather Weekly with Wish TV Storm Track 8 meteorologist Marcus Bailey.
It is episode 246 of Weather Weekly. Good to be with you, meteorologist Marcus Bailey, as we roll through the middle of the month of October. I hope you're having a fantastic start to this week ahead. Temperatures are still going to be on the warm side, but we've definitely had our taste of fall, especially in some of these overnight hours. With some cooler temperatures, did have our first frost of the season for parts of the state late last week. I don't think we're going to have to worry about that here coming up over the next several days, but I do have some changes up ahead, which could provide us with some rain opportunities, which we desperately need, and another sharp cool down that could lead us in to the end of the month. We will talk all about that and much, much more. It is the week ahead for October 13th, 2025. That's next on Weather Weekly. It is the week ahead for October 13th, 2025. Let's go ahead and dive in here. Really quiet weather, I think, for much of the work week here. There will be very limited issues weather-wise, both on the high end and low end of things. We're going to have a big ridge of high pressure kind of settled in. For your Monday, we're going to be talking well above average temperatures. And I think it's important to note that the average high for the middle of the month of October is typically around the upper 60s. Maybe middle 60s for far northern portions of the state. So we're going to be a good 10, maybe even 15 degrees above average. Okay. Just depending on your location here. So for Monday, quiet weather. Again, maybe a few thin clouds. I've got highs into the mid 70s and lows into the mid 50s. Tuesday, same thing. Dry, stable conditions, minimal cloud cover, highs in the mid 70s and maybe even upper 70s, believe it or not. And lows will be into the mid 50s. All right. Now, midweek, late week, we do cool it down a little bit. All right. We have a weak little boundary that's going to come through. Unfortunately, it comes in dry. And so we won't get any rain opportunities from this. You may get a few clouds as we go into your Wednesday afternoon. So we'll call it mostly sunny, potentially partly cloudy. Highs will be a little closer to average. I've got highs into the upper 60s, lower 70s. So maybe just a couple of degrees above average, and overnight lows into the mid 40s. That is for Wednesday. Same thing Thursday. Sunny, quiet, seasonable, highs into the upper 60s and lower 70s, and overnight lows will be into the upper 40s. Friday, I do think we're going to have kind of a quick little warm-up here for Friday and into the weekend as the dry weather continues. I've got highs on Friday into the low to mid 70s, overnight lows into the mid 50s. So a mild overnight for mid-October standards anyway. Might be the last dry day of this forecast here, of this stretch, I should say. Saturday, all right, there are some projections from some of the ensembles that we look at, that we could have a frontal system that's going to bring widespread precipitation, and that could arrive by Saturday into Sunday. Now, timing, of course, if you've listened to this podcast a while, I record this very early in the week, and so we're several days out. Things could change. That's one possible scenario. There's another that could also bring another wave coming in early in the following week. So this could open the door to a pretty active setup here for the coming days going into next week. So that would be the week of October 19th and 20th of next week. Okay. Now, The exact timing, tough to gauge. I will say that some of the projections that we are kind of eyeballing over the next 7 days does put a lot of the state somewhere between a quarter to half an inch. There are other parts of the state and western parts of the state, half an inch to an inch of rainfall. Okay. That would take us into Sunday morning. And with a little bit more rain potentially on tap early next week, that number may go up a little bit. Will it be a drought busting rain? No, we are in a pretty big hole right now. But we'll take whatever we can get. You also don't want to get too much at one time. I don't think it's going to be one of those scenarios. So this will be kind of just a gradual rain kind of coming our way. There are some kind of hints too that we're going to get a bit more of a cool down coming our way following this system where high temperatures may struggle to get out of the low 60s and maybe even upper 50s in some spots. That goes well beyond that. And we'd have to get through several waves of precipitation. I've got mid 60s for highs essentially through the weekend and probably even to Monday, the 20th. But you go beyond that, there are some signs that we are going to see maybe a bit of a cooling trend starting maybe on the 22nd. And look, that's typical for this time of year. I've often said it. October is one of those months where you start the month off with an average high into the mid 70s, essentially. And by the 31st, the average high is around 59. So while it is going to be sharply cooler, we're going to be pretty close to average, more than likely, as we kind of tail into the last few days of October. That's just kind of the signs right now. So if there's any good news, I don't see a significant blast of cold air. There's been many of Halloweens that we've had here in central Indiana where it's been winter cold. And we've even had some wintry precipitation for trick-or-treaters. So we're still a little far out to be certain for that, but I don't see signs that kind of pattern is going to be working into our area. So still this prolonged gradual cool down, which I think a lot of people will appreciate as we kind of get to this back half of the month of October. All right. So that is a look at the week ahead and a little bit beyond. We'll talk some stats. We'll give you an update on the drought monitor as well. It's not great. With the new update that came down on Thursday. We'll talk about that and much more here on Weather Weekly. All right, real quick, through the first 12 days of the month of October, we are standing now at the 13th warmest start, 13th warmest start to the month of October on record. It is the warmest start since 2018. That was ranked 2021 rather. That was ranked third. We had an average temperature of 68.9 in 2021. Right now we stand at 66.2 for the average temperature there. So it has been a very, very warm start, kind of in the top tier. All right. Precip wise, again, not great. Month to date, just over a tenth of an inch of rainfall in Indianapolis. Normal value should just be over an inch. So we are in a deficit of just shy of 1 inch. Last year at this time, though, we only had a trace of rain. Since September 1st, 1.92 inches. We are down 2.33 against the average. Last year, we were a little worse, about an inch and a half is all we picked up. And for the year, 29.66, we are down 5.5 inches. We were in much better shape last year at 34.28 inches of rainfall. All right. 8 to 14 day outlook. Interesting. And again, I have to stress this, and I say this every week. There is a strong signal of above average temperatures. And while that is true, obviously, we're going to be pretty warm this week, well above average for the first few days, and then maybe a little closer to average. But it's going to count even if we're maybe 2 or 3 degrees above average, which I think we will be, even with a sharp cool down coming following, the weekend cold front coming next weekend. And even if we have highs only around, the lower 60s, that may be right around or above average. So, and it also factors in overnight lows. And overnight lows is really where we kind of stay on the warm end of things. The average high and low for this time of year typically is into the middle 40s. We're going to be well above that, I think, as we kind of go through, as we go into much of this week, right? Overnight lows are going to be mainly in the 50s. We could have a couple of overnights that slip into the 40s, but for the most part, yeah, we're going to be above average. So that also plays in a role. It's not just on the high end. I think a lot of people look at that. When you see above average, you're thinking, okay, yeah, you're talking, warm afternoons. But it factors all the highs, the lows, and everything in between. So that's that there for the next 8 to 14 days. Again, that's going to be the 19th through the 25th. In that same time frame, pretty good signals for above average precipitation. And that kind of coincides with this active weather pattern that we think is going to start kind of taking shape starting next weekend. And then kind of going beyond that, where we may have several waves kind of moving in here through the next week. So several rain opportunities. It does bring us that potential for some needed moisture and needed precipitation. All right. Also, quick little update. I don't want to dive too in depth with this, but this came down earlier in the week that El Nino, or La Nina rather, is going to be favored in the forecast from December this year to February, so the winter season, essentially. What does that mean for the Midwest? Historically, it means wetter pattern. It also slightly warmer pattern. Now, does that mean no snow? No. Does it mean a ton of snow? No. It does mean that the pattern is going to be active, potentially. That's the setup. But a lot of that has to coincide with, meshing with cold air and that kind of thing. It's also a weak La Nina, which also kind of opens the door for other entities. And all La Nina is basically, it's the measurement of where the warm air is fluctuating in the equatorial Pacific. That's all it is. But it does have a tremendous influence in our weather patterns. Okay? So something to consider. We'll dive in deeper as we kind of get deeper into this month and really into November. We can kind of get a better gauge of potentially how the winter is going to play out, but it's still a little bit early to be certain here, okay? Something that I would consider is, because we've been so warm for a while, that this could present us with some chances for severe weather coming up in November, which doesn't typically happen a lot, but at some point we are going to transition, right? We're going to go into winter. We're kind of having that gradual decline, but there's always that one rush that we really kind of open that door. Happened pretty early last year, if you remember. Really like late October, we kind of opened that door, and then in November and beyond, it really kind of stayed consistently chilly. Much more so than previous years where our winter was extremely delayed. So something just to kind of monitor, because that will come if we stay on the mild end of things. We kind of have these bounce backs where we really can't get out of the 60s and maybe even close to 70s as we enter into the month of November, that there will be a sharp drop off at some point. And that's where we could open the door up to potentially some severe weather. Okay. Not saying it's going to happen. It's just something to pay attention to. Something that we'll definitely be watching for. All right. Lastly, I did want to mention the drought monitor. The new update actually expanded extreme drought conditions for north central portions of the state. Meanwhile, we did see at least a little bit of relief in southern portions of the state. That was thanks to some very heavy rain early on the week last week, around Monday. In fact, Bartholomew County had been completely removed from any drought monitor right around the Columbus area. It's one of the few areas that did, but there's some other areas in southern parts of the metro area, Johnson County and Shelby County, that's just now considered abnormally dry and not technically in a drought. Unfortunately, that may get a little bit worse for this week's update that will be released on Thursday, just because we don't have any rain on the way, at least for the next few days. May start to see a little bit of improvement as we go into next week, obviously, with all the rain chances potentially coming in next weekend and beyond. So that was your update there for the updated drought monitor. All right, that'll do it for this week's podcast. Always appreciate your feedback. You can shoot me an email anytime, marcus.bailey@wishtv.com. You can also reach me out on social media, Facebook, Twitter, or X, Instagram, and TikTok. I'm pretty active on all 4 of those platforms there. You can also get my forecast Monday through Friday, although I'll be off this week. But usually, when I'm not off, Monday through Friday, 4 a.m. to 10 a.m. locally. Channel 8 in Indianapolis, Central Indiana, and always online, wishtv.com. Click the live stream there. And you can get our forecast 24 hours a day at our website, wishtv.com/weather, and our free Storm Track 8 weather app. While you're here, make sure to check out all the other great podcasts, all part of the All Indiana Podcast Network. Have a wonderful week. We will talk to you soon, and God bless.
Discover more from Storm Track 8 Weather and Wish TV. Online at wishtv.com and when you follow Wish TV on Facebook. Plus, be sure to check out more great podcasts from the All Indiana Podcast Network now at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.